A yard sale find turns out to be a rare and valuable piece by the renowned artist Betty Saar. The guest, initially drawn to its charm, later noticed a signature that sparked her curiosity. It is immediately recognized as a fantastic example of Betty Saar's work from 1963. Saar, a significant African-American artist, has pieces in major collections like the Museum of Modern Art. This particular print, titled Flight, is from an edition of just 14, making it exceptionally rare.
Born and raised and studied in Los Angeles, and in the early 60s, she began doing etchings and screen prints like this.
It is extremely rare seeing such a pristine piece like this outside of a museum.
And we just know of a few examples today. One of those is in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Betty Saar's work, especially her assemblages, holds significant historical and cultural value. At auction today, this rare print of a renowned artist is conservatively estimated to be worth?
At auction today, a work like this, I would conservatively estimate at $5,000 to $7,000.
Wow.
This piece of jewelry was given to the guest by her friend, which is a platinum, diamond, and carved agate Art Deco brooch. It is dated around the 1920s to 1930s and is made by a rare Austrian maker, Erwin Palcho. The name is inscribed at the back of the brooch, and it is beautifully textured. Erwin Palcho is a rare maker in the United States, and not many items were made by this maker. Also, the agate would be dyed to enhance its colors, and this was the only style of jewelry he made. This natural motif was common in Palcho's jewelry, including beautiful carved flowers. And at auction, this brooch would be estimated between...
At auction today, I would estimate this to bring somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
What we have here today is a Joe DiMaggio used bat, which was purchased at an auction by the guest in 1976.
Well, it's a Joe DiMaggio autographed bat. I got it through an auction in New Jersey back in 1976.
DiMaggio was an American baseball center fielder who played his entire 13-year career in Major League Baseball for the New York Yankees.
9 World Series championships, a 13-time All-Star, 2,214 hits. He finished up with a career batting average of .325.
The guest met DiMaggio when he was doing an autograph signing at a college in San Jose, and he signed this piece.
$130 for it. A gentleman back east bid $130 also. So we had a three-way conversation via phone.
It is a known fact that DiMaggio always sanded the barrels of his game-used bats, which is evident on this piece. Furthermore, there's tape on the bat's handle, which was probably placed there because this bat cracked at some point. This bat was made by the Louisville Slugger Company, and upon observing the bat's knob, we can see its serial number D29. Although this bat had been used a lot by DiMaggio throughout his career, it remains intact. Considering the provenance of this piece and the historical significance of DiMaggio to American baseball, this bat is estimated to be worth...
Place a value at auction of $80,000 to $100,000.
Oh.
The guest inherited this painting from her brother-in-law, who bought it from an auction in Philadelphia. It was painted by Walter Baum, a Pennsylvania artist, who was part of the Bucks County Impressionists. He was a patron of the arts in Pennsylvania, a founder of the Allentown Art Museum and the Lehigh Art Alliance. Also, he had his own art school, the Baum School of Art, and made about 1,000 pieces of artworks. This painting was done around the 1940s or 1950s, and it is a watercolor on paper. Moreover, the snow was probably made of gouache, which was a common scene of Baum's painting. Therefore, an auction estimate for this watercolor painting would be...
A current auction estimate for this watercolor would be $2,500 to $3,500.
That's great.
Our guest brought several works by Charles Harper, including 2 paintings and some publications. Our guest didn't know Harper personally, but inherited the pieces through his father.
Do you know much about his history at all?
I don't really know that much about his history.
Interesting thing about him, he was an artist who was born in 1922 and he served in World War II as one of these few artists hired by the government.
Charles Harper, born in 1922. He served in World War II and later developed a unique artistic style, simplifying, caricaturing, and flattening his designs. Our guest owns about 10 works by Harper, including 8 paintings and 3 prints. The appraiser highlighted Harper's graphic style using examples of a Carolina parakeet and
I love what he's done with this Carolina parakeet and how he's put these different positions for the wings to emulate the flight. But it's very graphically interesting.
Harper's mid-century modernism style has become highly sought after in recent years, contributing to the value of his work. In 1987, the guest had the paintings appraised for about $700 each. But in current market situations, the appraiser estimates these paintings at a price of,
I think at this point, if these were to go into auction, I would probably suggest an estimate of $8,000 to $12,000 a piece.
A piece? Oh my gosh.
The painting was received by the guest from their mother, who had acquired it from an older couple in New Orleans before their passing. It was created by Alexander John Drysdale, a renowned Southern artist from New Orleans. The artwork captured a Louisiana bayou scene, depicting a tranquil and serene landscape. The painting exemplified calm composition and muted palettes alongside its tonus style. Originally housed in a frame, it was later remounted within a larger frame, preserving its originality. This painting had an exceptional ability to evoke the mood and atmosphere characteristic of the Louisiana bayou. Despite being created nearly a century ago, the painting retained its freshness and timeless appeal. The appraiser estimated the value of this painting to be around,
I would probably price it around $12,000 to $15,000, and that's the retail price for it.
In 1978, this guest stumbled upon this collection of stunning costume designs. The artist for the collection is Romain de Tertoff, better known as Erte, a renowned designer of the 1920s and 30s. It's a collection of Erte's designs for the Ringling Brothers Circus. These drawings are proudly some of the most iconic of Erte's works. Included in the collection are both sketches and detailed drawings.
These wonderful sketches, as well as these highly finished, highly detailed drawings.
There are about 10 fully finished drawings and 15 smaller sketches, all in excellent condition. The smaller sketches, typical of these types of works, are valued less than the larger ones.
They're in excellent condition. The smaller ones tend to sell for about $1,500.
Because of their circus theme and Erte's fame, the total collection's value is estimated between,
I think that because of the circus interest, the total collection would be more like $50,000 to $60,000.
One man's trash is another man's treasure, as evidenced by this unique book found in a dumpster. This guest recounts discovering the book Hawaii, the Isle of a Thousand Wonders, while scavenging. The book was created by photographer and publisher Ray Jerome Baker. Baker, an influential figure, moved to Hawaii in 1910 and became a significant book publisher. The book contains fine photographs of Hawaii's Big Island, making it a valuable historical document. Such books like this one were likely published in limited editions of 500 to 1,000 copies. Ray Jerome Baker's works are highly sought after by collectors, especially for their early photographs. The estimates for this particular sought-after book at auction today could reach a figure of,
I would have thought would have an auction value today of $5,000 to $6,000.
It's unusual for an Inkwell to be appraised, but this is no ordinary Inkwell. The Inkwell was created in 1905 by the luxury manufacturer Tiffany Studios. Tiffany Studios was largely known for stained glass windows and Tiffany lamps, so this Inkwell is unique. It was made from mosaic, which is known to be fragile, but it's still in good condition. There are only about 4 or 5 of these particular Inkwells, making it quite rare.
I would have remembered running after her if I had done something like
You
that.
were in the store?
But I worked at the store for many years, and now it is actually my store.
It's also decorated with tiles on the surface, although some of them are missing.
It's a mosaic with a iridized frog and 2 fantastic poppies.
Okay. By Tiffany Studios.
Tiffany
yes.
Studios.
The Inkwell is an authentic piece, as confirmed by the signature. At a suitable auction, this beautifully luxurious inkwell would sell for.
This could sell in a retail venue for between $100,000 and $150,000.
Flabbergasted. Unbelievable.
Exhibited on the show today are pieces of artwork created by the guest grandmother's aunt, Blanche Lazelle. Lazelle was an American painter, printmaker, and designer, especially known for her white line woodcuts.
And so she was what, your great aunt?
It would be my great aunt. We knew she was a famous artist from West Virginia. Obviously, lots of things pop up when you look on the internet about her.
On the back of one of these items, we can see the artist's note to the guest grandmother. It is signed and dated 1926 on the lower right corner. Furthermore, this particular piece is a print made using the white line woodcut process.
My grandmother gave me this print when I moved into my first apartment about 40 years ago because I didn't have any artwork.
At auction, this work of art by Lazelle, in its present condition, would be valued at
auction, probably worth about $1,500 to $2,500.
The second item was done in watercolors. It is signed and dated 1937 on the lower right corner. The demand for Lazelle's work is high, and we can expect this piece to accrue a value of,
and I think conservatively, at auction, this would be worth $30,000 to $50,000.
Wow.
This guest brought onto the show a vibrant painting that was gifted to his wife by her parents in 1938. This vibrant painting was created in 1930 by Percy Gray, an American painter who won a bronze medal at the Panama Pacific International Exposition in 1915.
Well, it's a lovely piece, and Percy Gray certainly is a California painter.
The painting depicts a scene of the California landscape, featuring rolling green hills and oaks with California wildflowers. Additionally, the painting was done with watercolors and bears the artist's signature on its lower part. Interestingly, the painting still possesses its original frame. For a piece made decades ago, this painting remains in pristine condition, with the saturation of the colors still as vivid as when it was painted. At auction, given the present condition of this piece and the desirability of Gray's work, it's estimated to be worth,
I would say at auction right now, it's worth on the order of $20,000 to $30,000.
Wow, that's terrific.
Her mother bought this chandelier for $1.50. A chandelier from the English arts and crafts movement often features handcrafted elements and intricate metalwork. These chandeliers often use copper or brass. It may include stained glass or mica shades. Let's discover the finesse of American copper craftsmanship.
I went there for first grade. After my first grade year, they announced that they're going to have to close it. So my mother, who had just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
The cutout panels feature an English style, seen in the rivet design in thinner copper. The lappets resemble trailing vines or leaves, reflecting the arts and crafts period's natural beauty. Arts and crafts chandeliers featured natural tones and subtle metallic finishes. Radiating with timeless craftsmanship, the appraiser valued the item.
I would say at auction in today's market, you're looking at a value of about $5,000 a piece.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah.
The guest brought to the show a pastel that originally belonged to her mother's uncle, a notable art collector.
Yeah, it actually started with my mother's uncle, who was a big collector, and all the good art that we have actually in our house came from Albert.
The piece was created in 1925 by the renowned artist Joseph Stella. Stella, an Italian-born American futurist painter, is best known for his depictions of industrial America, particularly his images of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Very surprised to learn that his teacher was William Merritt Chase, and Chase was a very conservative American Impressionist artist.
Stella is also intriguing due to his deeply spiritual side, which this piece clearly reflects. In the lower right corner of the painting, we can see the artist's signature, further authenticating the item. The painting captures a gentle scene of two swans beneath a bridge. The piece remains in pristine condition, which further enhances its value. Given the provenance of this painting and the significance of its creator, it's estimated to be worth,
I would value it retail at probably about $75,000.
Wow.
This painting is a perfect representation of the beauty of tribal arts. It's a 1970 painting by Oscar Howe. Oscar was known largely for using modern paintings to depict.
They both taught a while.
Yeah.
And he got to know Oscar Howe very, very well.
Native American traditions. This painting is a perfect example of his unique style.
He paid $900 for it in 1970, I think.
1970?
1970.
Now, Oscar Howe ended up a professor at the University of South Dakota.
It features a woman painting and is hence called a skin painter.
This is an original painting. Well, what the woman's doing is she's in front of a teepee and she has a rawhide stretched out on the ground and she's painting the design on a parfleche.
The painting is richly saturated with color and has a unique appearance. It's a beautifully treasured depiction of Native American tradition. At auction, this beautiful piece of tribal art would retail for the price of.
If this came up for auction today, I would expect it to sell for $10,000 to $12,000.
This remarkable bronze sculpture with an intriguing history is very captivating. The guest reveals that their grandfather brought it back from World War II in Italy. It is quickly identified as the work of Tritz Koy, a fascinating figure with Russian and American heritage. Tritz Koy, also known as Pavel or Paul, studied and worked in various countries, including Italy and the United States.
Unfortunately, it doesn't have a foundry mark. His pieces were cast in France, Italy, and the United States.
This unique, impressionistic style of the sculpture, which mimics brushstrokes, is well highlighted.
But this piece has a very impressionistic look. You can see the way it was modeled, either in clay or in wax, and it's almost like the brushstrokes.
This particular piece, a Bronco Buster, was made in two sizes, and this one is the smaller version.
That really doesn't make all that much of a difference in terms of valuing it. It has this one problem here. Part of his finger is missing. It's really very minor. It could be fixed.
Despite a minor flaw, a missing finger, the sculpture's value remains high due to its rarity and artistry. At auction today, this remarkable, captivating bronze sculpture would be estimated at.
This piece is worth between $15,000 and $20,000.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
This is a stunning painting by Marc Arule Suzar Cote. Suzar Cote was one of Canada's most beloved artists.
Marc Arule Suzar Cote.
Yes.
Absolutely. And he really is one of Canada's most popular artists of the early 20th century.
Prominent early 20th century Canadian artist, he was known for his extensive travels and study in Paris.
Traveled pretty extensively, and like many artists, found his way to Paris.
His training at the École des Beaux-Arts greatly influenced his distinguished style. This particular piece showcased Suzar Cote's skills and artistic vision. His works, even till now, continue to captivate art enthusiasts worldwide. At auction, Suzar Cote's works are highly popular and desirable. Based on its condition and provenance, this piece's estimated value is set at
auction, a piece like this should make $8,000 to $12,000.
Okay. That's better than 15.
Absolutely.
This is an incredibly realistic painting of apples. It's quite uncommon to see this kind of painting since the majority of paintings are landscapes or portraits. The painting was created in 1880 by an American painter named Descott Evans.
Well, it's Stanley S. David, and I've never heard of him before.
Okay. Well, there's probably a reason you haven't. He's not generally known by that name.
During his lifetime, Descott was largely known for painting young women, but this painting is unique. This painting is one of Descott's unique styles, which fools the eye into thinking it's real. Despite being an oil on canvas, this is an incredibly detailed painting.
His name, or his nom de plume, or maybe nom de brush, Stanley S. David, and his job is artist.
It's a highly prized piece among collectors. At an auction, the realistic apple painting would retail at the price of.
At auction, a work very similar to this, but without the wonderful card, just brought $12,000 at auction.
Wow.
So this is easily a $12,000 picture for auction.
What if you could peek into the mind of Mark Twain through his own handwritten words? Mark Twain was an American writer, humorist, and essayist. praised as the greatest humorist the United States has ever produced. Our guest today showcased one of Twain's letters to her husband's grandfather, who was his family's physician when Twain lived in Florence, Italy.
The letter is dated only Sunday morning, but the postmark shows that it was 1892.
Although the letter is dated Sunday morning, the postmark shows it as 1892.
The life that has learned its sentence is not worth the living.
The content of this letter is intriguing because Twain was asking the doctor to visit his sick wife, but not to tell her how severe her illness was.
He's asking the doctor to come and visit Mrs. Clemens, right?
Yes.
But not tell her just how ill that she is.
Yes.
Another interesting fact about this letter is that it bears Twain's personal signature. It has also been very well preserved over the years, with everything written still clearly visible. Given that this letter was personal to Mark Twain and signed by him, it would easily be valued at...
I would put on this an auction estimate of $8,000 to $10,000 because I'm so enthusiastic about it. So I hope that pleases you.
Treasured childhood memories often come with hidden surprises, as discovered with this piece. The guest fondly recalls seeing these pieces every Christmas at their grandparents' home. Originally purchased in Portugal in 1923 by the guest great-uncle, the pieces were taken to California.
My great-uncle bought them for my grandfather, and my grandfather brought them back to California about 1925, I would say.
Pieces are identified as polychrome plaster groups. Despite some missing parts, the set remains quite impressive and historically valuable. While some pieces appear Spanish, others show Portuguese characteristics.
The carving of these faces here are not very Spanish. They're unlike the other groups, even though these obviously are not religious figures.
With their intricate details and sterling crowns, the entire set dates back to the 18th century. The value for these mixed Spanish and Portuguese nativity sets would be...
And the value for the entire set would be between $6,000 and $9,000.
The guest's dad got this Rolex at a wild party in the 1940s, a crazy party favor. He wore it for years, and the guest then inherited this cool timepiece. After a car accident in 1969, the watch was found miraculously at the scene by the guest's sister.
About 1969, I had a car wreck, and the watch broke off the band. My sister came to see me in the hospital, asked if there was anything she could do, and I told her to stop at the scene of the wreck.
This Rolex Oyster Perpetual Bubbleback is a waterproof wonder. Made in 1944, it boasts 26 jewels and impressive accuracy.
On the edge of the lugs, and we found that the watch was made or manufactured in 1944. Does that fit into the... I thought it was 1943.
The original black dial with radium features is a collector's dream. Today, similar watches could fetch...
Auction a watch like this today would probably bring somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000. But I got to go right back to the story. That's the best part.
The updated value of this watch is $3,000 to $4,000. Guest brought a collection of 51 Chinese dishes, purchased from a lifelong collector who believed they dated back to the turn of the century. Their Chinese origin was verified based on the enamel decoration, hand-painted flowers, and marks on the back. The dishes were likely made during the Guangzhou period, despite a mark indicating they were from the Qinglong period. The mark was an honorific mark, not meant to deceive. Their style was an 18th century design reinterpreted in the late 19th century. The market for Chinese items had risen significantly in recent years. The guest had no idea of the value and paid only $600 for the set 15 years ago. Due to the collection's outstanding quality and rarity, it was appraised at...
Well, what would you think if I told you the entire set was conservatively $10,000 to $15,000 at auction?
The guest brought in a lovely Satsuma collection she acquired at Nyack about 30 years ago for appraisal. They are Satsuma ceramics produced during the Meiji period, that is the 19th century to the early 20th century. The Satsuma region comes from Kagoshima Prefecture, the south of Japan, and they produced fine earthenware. This collection represents the work of 3 different studios and was the pinnacle of Satsuma works. These pieces were made for export to impress the West. The first 2 pieces were made by Ryozan Studios. The jar is in the form of pomegranate, and the vase is well detailed. One prolific studio during that period was the Kinkozan Studio, where the next piece was made. It was an elaborate design of an imperial procession having a mark and a retail label at the bottom. Further, the last 2 pieces were made in the finest studio associated with Satsuma, called Yabu Maizen. Yabu Maizen Studio was known for its intricate but sparsely decorated wares, but they were well balanced. Both of these pieces have the Yabu Maizen mark on the base. There is an active market for Satsuma earthenware, so a reasonable estimate for this collection at an auction would be,
from what we see on the table, somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 for this collection.
Thank you, Mr. Stolper. Oh my God.
Here is a Tiffany lamp that has not been converted, received from the guest great-aunt. It is a Tiffany student lamp, having a vine border that is often referred to as an acorn pattern. Most of the time they come with a regular blown glass shade, but this piece has an unusual leaded glass shade. Also, it is a very early lamp, having a minute Tiffany stamp on the shade. This piece was made in the 1900s, before Tiffany had their own foundry. More so, it has a 5-digit mark, which indicates it was a Tiffany Studios foundry base. It's all in original condition, having a kerosene compartment, wick area, and shade holder, but the shade holder requires some repairs. The lamp has never been powered. However, electrifying it might enhance the value. Old Tiffany lamps, such as this one, do not have much value like the big ones, so an auction price for this would be,
I think easy $8,000 to $10,000.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Maybe a little bit more. We don't see the very early lamps very often here, and it's a joy to see it.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
This guitar is a John D'Angelico archtop jazz guitar and was purchased for the guest by his father in 1953 when he was around 10 years old. John D'Angelico was a luthier from New York City, famous for his handmade archtop guitars and mandolins. His company earned a reputation for making some of the finest and most ornate archtop guitars of the era. In this photograph, the guest was around 10 or 11 years old, alongside his father and teacher. There were signs of playing wear on the guitar, indicating it had been well used throughout its lifetime. The original sales receipt, handwritten by John D'Angelico, showed the guitar was bought for $325 on October 19, 1953. The receipt also mentioned the guitar was custom made. It had a medium neck, custom dark finish, and original pickup, which is now missing due to the disintegration of the pickguard. This guitar, made in 1953, is considered to be from D'Angelico's best period. The appraiser estimated its current retail value at a vintage guitar shop to be between,
at a vintage guitar shop, would sell in the range of $30,000 to $35,000 at retail.
This guest brought in a colorful canvas from the 1930s to 1940s, handed down to her from her mother's family. It's not a poster, but a print on linen canvas made for films. This is a promotional print made in conjunction with the film Snow White in 1938. Further, this advertisement was done for Disney. They were promoting Snow White bread and added the Mickey Mouse Club for children. So if kids wanted to join the club, they would get the book at the bottom as shown. A writing is noticed on the print, like someone used a pencil or graphite to scribble on it, but it can be erased easily. One of such prints was sold 14 years ago for $6,500, but in today's market, this item would be worth,
in today's market, we think every bit of at least $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow. I didn't expect that. Thank you.
a wristwatch given to the guest's father-in-law when he clocked 25 years of service at the General Motors in Brazil is brought to the show. The maker is Patek Philippe, one of the finest Swiss watch brands due to branding and nature of the market. The watch was made in Switzerland and is all 18-karat yellow gold. It is certainly an aftermarket watch because it has a gold bracelet instead of the usual plain or alligator strap. Also, the bracelet is not marked and has an open space by the lugs instead of being fitted in. Another unusual thing is that the dial is black instead of white or silver, and all the numbers have a gold tone, which is a gilt finish. At the back is the GM logo, initials of a guest father-in-law, and years of service, 1940 to 1965. When the back is pulled off, a reference number is revealed, which is 1578, and after it are two initials, GM, indicating that this is a contract watch. This means that this watch was customized for General Motors by Patek, with their logo on it and a serial number. This watch was made between 1964 and 1965 and would be estimated at auction for...
This watch would be $12,000 to $18,000.
Oh boy. Wow. It's too bad I had it in a Ziploc bag earlier today.
A hidden gem from the Renaissance Revival is exactly what this piece can be said to be. It was acquired by the guest while helping her friend sort through her great-aunt's estate. An Italian Renaissance Revival creation, the piece is from the late 1800s, around 1880.
And this is actually it's sort of an homage piece to a very important era in Italian art, the Renaissance era.
The craftsmanship and clever use of pencils to hold the piece together highlight its unique features. Despite the lack of marks, its authenticity is assured as a typical Italian pottery from that era.
There's that nice label there. No marks on the back that you can see, but not surprising. And it's very typical of Italian pottery from this time period.
The historical significance of pieces like this with unique designs are quite intriguing and insightful. This item's appeal underscores the enduring value of Italian Renaissance Revival art. At auction, this remarkable piece of Italian pottery is estimated to fetch a sum of...
At auction, you would expect this to bring around $1,800 to $2,000.
Oh, really? That's okay. Well, Kim, we're going to have a party.
Guest brought family heirlooms to the show today.
They've been in the houses of my aunt and my mother, and they've been in an office building that I've owned for the last 15 years.
We have French brass inlaid corner cabinets here. The style of decoration is often referred to as Boule work, named after André Charles Boule, a French cabinet maker. This technique involves laying brass into ebony, with tortoiseshell and pewter also used. The cabinets actually date from about 1870 to 1900.
One of the reasons we kind of know that is partially this form, because we didn't have really corner cabinets when Boule was active. And the other thing is the type of technique of how this is done.
One of the interesting things you'll notice about them is the fun monkeys in reverse designs.
Why? Jay cut it out and didn't want to waste the material?
That's the technique. It's like making cookies.
Yeah.
You know, when you put the cookie cutter in, you pull something out, you've got the reverse. So they basically use one pattern for one side.
The ebony used on these was like a skin, although really expensive, but it covered up less expensive wood used to carve out the cabinets. This type of furniture is somewhat out of fashion nowadays. They belong to the corner, hence the name corner cabinets. It's a little bit tough to sell them at auction due to some damages seen on them, but these cabinets with expensive ebony covers and Boule decoration will still bring a value of about...
At auction, you'd be looking at about $1,500 to about $2,000 for the pair.
Okay.
On the show today is a bronze deity figure that has been in the Guest family for many years. They acquired the piece while living in Japan. The piece was made in Tibet in the 18th century and is an image of the Sino-Tibetan city Yamantaka. Yamantaka is the destroyer death deity of Vajrayana Buddhism and is sometimes conceptualized as the conqueror of the Lord of Death. It was crafted from mercury gilt bronze, which involved mixing gold with mercury and then firing it off, so only the gold remained on the surface. On the head, we can see a bit of red color, which was used in the dedication ceremony of the image.
Dress them with scarves, burn incense in front of them, that kind of thing.
Upon observing the back of the bronze piece, we can see that it is intricately well done, as the front, featuring faces, and a flame headdress. Although some minor discolorization is observable on the piece, it is still generally in good shape. At auction, conservatively, This gilt bronze figure of a Tibetan deity would be valued at
Auction estimate on this piece would be $6,000 to $8,000.
Oh my gosh. Oh
conservatively.
my. Oh my.
And these things have been really taken off in terms of value. They've been going higher and higher and higher.
Really?
a bag that belonged to John F. Kennedy in the 1950s when he was in Beacon Hill, Boston, is brought in for appraisal. He left the bag at a cobbler's shop. Inside were some handwritten notes and his lunch, which had been disposed of. Inside the bag, there's a compartment for papers and lunch. The provenance of this piece is great, plus it has the initials of John F. Kennedy to back it up. Presidential memorabilia is highly collectible, especially that of presidents like JFK. But this is not a unique item, hence the market is unstable. But such items had once sold for $17,000 to $18,000. Since this bag was used before he became president, based on other auction records, a reasonable estimate at auction would be,
but all things put into perspective based on other auction records, it would probably put an estimate somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000.
Well, thank you very much.
No, glad you came. I really enjoyed seeing this in person. It's just a great thing.
The guest brought 2 silver plates from Captain John Smith, her great-great-grandfather, who was a captain on the mail route from Liverpool to New York in 1829 to 1831. These items were given to John Smith by passengers in appreciation of his kind gesture, giving up his cabin. The first one has an inscription, "From the passengers in the ship Napoleon, arrived at Liverpool December 4th, 1829, to Captain John P. Smith." Looking at the salver, it has an engraved sort of sea-scroll border around the inscription. Also, there's a wonderful scallop shell cresting with berries and floral motifs, which is typical of the William IV period. When turned over, the hallmarks are there, made in London, the monarch's head, and the letter N, which is the date 1828. The second piece is a beautiful cake basket having floral motifs and some sort of leaf frieze. Again, the hallmarks are at the back, made in Sheffield, and the date letter is G, which stands for 1830. Notwithstanding the provenance of these pieces, they would be valued at an auction for $2,000 to $3,000. However, with the story behind them, they would be worth more, around,
I think it would be $6,000 to $8,000.
Oh.
The market for silver is strong at the moment, so I think they would do very well.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. I wanted to know where they were made, and it's fun to know about it.
From the Fur Rendezvous in Alaska, a celebration filled with history, tradition, and unique memorabilia, comes this piece. Started in 1936 as a 3-day sports competition, the Fur Rendezvous has evolved into a grand winter festival.
36 was just a 3-day sporting competition. Skiing, hockey, anything you get, it was an athletics competition.
The guest collected these cherished pins and pendants from the iconic Fur Rondi event. At the centerpiece of these items is a rare 1939 Fur Rendezvous pennant from Anchorage.
February 1939 was the first year they introduced the pins and pennants, fun souvenir take-home items.
Its unique and rare nature marks it as a true treasure. The pendant symbolizes Alaskan heritage, marking the end of winter and the start of joyous festivities.
For Alaska, you have trappers and miners coming down, taking the fruits of their labor from working through winter, and it's this big rip-roaring festivity.
This discovery highlights the value of preserving historical artifacts and their stories. At auction, the pendant in the middle, symbolizing early Fur Rendezvous heritage, is estimated to achieve a sum of,
conservatively at auction, you could see that achieve between $8,000 and $12,000 today.
Thank you. Oh, sweet.
This breathtaking pair of inherited jewelry reveals a rich family history and incredible value. They are stunning pieces passed down through the guest generations, originating from pre-war Germany. There's the elegant diamond twin stone ring, crafted in platinum with transitional cut diamonds. These diamonds, each about 2 1/4 carats, shine brilliantly.
Not to mention that you have over a carat of baguette-cut diamonds in the shoulders.
Dating back to the 1950s, the ring showcases a blend of vintage and modern diamond cuts. Next is an exquisite art modern brooch from around 1935, featuring old European and single-cut diamonds. It's adorned with approximately 11 carats of diamonds and offers versatility with its ability to transform into multiple pieces.
The larger stones total about 6 carats, and then you have at least 5 more carats of additional diamond weight.
Though lacking hallmarks, it's likely that the brooch hails from Germany or Austria, while the ring likely has American origins. The elegant diamond ring has an estimated auction value of
You'd be looking at the $25,000 to $35,000 range.
Whoa.
while the exquisite brooch at auction would fetch an impressive price of
I wouldn't be surprised if we could expect in the $40,000 to $60,000 range at auction.
That's amazing.
Today's item is an unexpected treasure from a legendary naturalist. The piece is a historic rattle passed down through generations, originating from the renowned John Muir. It is identified as a Tlingit artifact from Glacier Bay, Alaska, dating back to the late 1870s. This raven rattle, once used by high-ranking men or shamans in ceremonies, showcases intricate designs of a raven, frog, and human figure.
In their lives with the animals in the region, there was a transformational characteristic going on.
Despite missing a limb, the rattle's historical significance and connection to John Muir elevates its value.
That was my great uncle. Speaking with him later in his life, his regret was he lost the limb.
The rattle is actually quite rare and has a huge cultural importance.
A lot of it's subjective. The Tlingit rattle of this age, nature, and collection history.
It is also a remarkable heirloom that honors the enduring legacy of John Muir. At auction, this historically significant artifact could fetch up to
At auction, it would probably bring $30,000.
Wow.
This beautiful item had been in the Guest family for generations, and remarkably, her mother, grandmother, aunt, and great-grandmother were all named Margaret or Margarita. This item was originally made by a girl named Margaret and carried a lovely message on it. The appraiser revealed that Margarita had attended Sarah McCardell's school and made it in 1825. He explained that each intricate detail was meticulously drawn beforehand, and then it was up to the girls to bring them to life, competing to see who could execute them the best. This sampler was exquisitely crafted and adorned with delicate silk flowers that added a touch of elegance. The appraiser commended the artwork, particularly noting the effective use of red hues, while also acknowledging some water damage and stains present. To the Guest amazement, the appraiser estimated this piece to be
Pre-sale auction estimate on this sampler would be $7,000 to $10,000.
Really?
Yeah.
This Guest acquired these manuscripts from a neighbor who bought them at an antique sale.
It was actually a neighbor that I think maybe got him in some type of sale probably 100 years ago. She was an antique collector. She passed away and her son inherited them. Right. So he basically just passed these books on to me and wanted me to keep them and go through them and
So you were giving them? They were given?
They were given to me, yes.
Excellent.
These are 3 volumes of hotel ledgers containing wanted posters from the early 20th century. The posters feature some of the most notorious criminals of the era, most notably George Parker, known as Butch Cassidy. Published by the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, these ledgers also include wanted posters of other infamous criminals, such as Harry Longenbaugh, the Sundance Kid, among many others. These ledgers are spectacular as they take one on a journey through time, providing a vivid glimpse into the past. Extremely rare, these posters are a sight to behold and would be of immense value to collectors of historical documents and memorabilia. The appraiser notes the excellent condition of the ledgers, which enhances their value. Presented in their original and excellent condition, this remarkable collection of hotel ledgers and wanted posters is estimated to sell at auction for
An auction at $40,000 to $60,000 on.
Okay.
We have here on the show a dollhouse that was given to our guest by a family member. The dollhouse was made circa 1930 and crafted from wood. Some parts, like hinges, window frames, and door handles, were made of metal. Inside the dollhouse, the wallpaper, flooring, and roofing were made from paper and cardboard. It also features handcrafted woodwork and built-in furniture, popular in the early 20th century. Historically, dolls like this one were used to teach children about domestic life and architecture. Additionally, the condition of this piece is remarkable, with all its interior parts and objects still visible. Given the historical significance of this dollhouse to the American educational system, it's estimated to be worth. This etching had been in the Guest family for generations and was acquired through inheritance.
This comes from my grandfather, who was a member of the New York Society of Etchers way long time ago and began a collection at that time that I've been fortunate enough to inherit.
The etching, titled The Catboat, was created in 1922 by Edward Harper. Harper was an American realist painter and printmaker. He is one of America's most renowned artists, known for his skill in capturing American life and landscapes through his art.
As an illustrator, it wasn't until 1913 at the famous Armory show in New York that he actually had a painting exhibited that sold. That painting was also a selling subject.
Furthermore, the item is signed by the artist in the lower right corner. Captured in this particular etching is a sailing subject, complete with a sailboat and two human figures. Harper often commented how he liked to use very stark white paper and deep, heavy black ink, which is very evident in this piece. This piece was made during the peak of the artist's career and has been very well preserved, which could further enhance its value. We can expect this print, done by an extremely important American artist, to sell for.
I would put an insurance value on it of $250,000.
Really? It's more money than belongs in my living room, I think.
It's a real masterpiece, and you're lucky to have that.
Wow, goosebumps today.
During the early part of the 19th century, the standard military arm was a flintlock, muzzle-loading, smooth-bore weapon. What we have here today is a U.S. Model 1819 Hall rifle.
Well, it is for the time period it was produced.
This item belongs to the Guest husband, who inherited it from his grandfather. The rifle is innovative because it's not only a rifle, but also a breech-loading weapon.
By operating this lever, you open the breech, you can put in your powder and your ball, close your breech again, and you're ready to go.
John Hall's design and manufacturing concepts provided for the first interchangeable parts guns to ever be produced at a U.S. arsenal. Hall was then hired to build rifles with fully interchangeable parts at the Harper's Ferry.
And this is a time when any manufacturing is by hand, essentially, and even though some machine tools are being used, there is no interchangeability of parts.
This gun was made in 1834, and it's got the John Hall Harper's Ferry mark on top of the breech.
Had one little design flaw. When you fire the gun, gas tends to leak out of the breech area here. So every time you fire it, you've got this puff of smoke and hot gas right in front of your face.
It also features a bayonet, which is interchangeable and would fit into any Hall rifle produced at the time.
Any Hall rifle made at Harper's Ferry could be exchanged with any other.
Okay.
So it was an amazing feat of engineering.
A little crack is seen on the item, and it's also missing its top jaw and the screw that held the flint.
It's got a little crack here, which is not uncommon in Hall rifles. When you see this crack, you know that sometime, probably in the last 50 or 100 years, someone took the gun apart inappropriately, and that's how the crack was developed.
But because this gun is still in its original flintlock configuration, at auction today, together with its bayonet, it's worth a significant sum of...
So you've got a $3,000 to $3,500 package here.
Nice. Well, thank you so much.
This candy box is a wonderful work of art. It's a china-painted candy box that was crafted in 1910. Candy boxes were used during the Chinese New Year for storing candy. This one is special because it also has a portrait on it. Candy boxes originated during the Ming Dynasty. A Chinese painting like this is quite distinct and immediately draws the eyes of its viewer.
Being a craft that was very popular, starting in the 1890s and going on through to the 30s.
It's a highly prized piece among collectors. At auction, this Chinese painted candy box would retail for
somewhere between $500 and $600. For the family, for people who knew her, of course, this is absolutely priceless.
Yes, it's priceless.
This is a beautiful sculpture that was made in Tokyo. It was made during the Meiji period. The sculpture looks like a Japanese warrior. It's made from bronze, which is a valuable material. The sculpture also looks well polished. A sculpture like this was likely used during important rituals. This is a beautiful piece of Japanese heritage. At a suitable auction, as a prime legacy piece, this sculpture would retail for...
The value of this piece at auction would be around $25,000.
Oh. Well, that's very nice to know.
Exactly, yeah.
The guest brought onto the show a watch that she purchased 25 years ago at an estate sale. The watch is called a minute repeater and was made around the turn of the century, circa 1905. Typically, there's a slide lever on the side of the case used to activate the minute repeater mechanism. Opening the case reveals the meticulously assembled mechanism. Featured on the watch's dial is a vintage portrait of a female child, and the dial has an enamel finish. Compared to modern watches, this one is relatively larger, measuring up to 55 millimeters in diameter. Although the watch is over a century old, it still retains its allure and functionality. At auction, we can expect this perfectly preserved timepiece to sell for
somewhere in the $4,000 price range.
Amazing.
One heck of a good find, right?
Whoa.